Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 8 of Unethical Hoops with Drago and Bulletproof. Today, we're talking about Wilt's new discovered stats, the MVP race, and the 65 game rule by default. Um, so, first of all, hello, Drago. Hello, Multi Kenny. We have special guest Multi Kenny.
How you guys doing?
What up? What up?
Hello. I'll start with Wilt's new stats thing because I don't see a lot of buzz around it. I don't know why it's supposed to be breaking news. So, in the last few days, Basketball Reference included the stats for Wilt's traceable games for his blocks. Not just Wilt, but multiple players. So this also includes Bill Russell, Nate Thurman, Jerry West for his steals and stuff. So now we have data from the 60s and early 70s for steals and blocks. Of course, not for all games, but I guess based on the number, I've seen that it's the taped games and the games that Harvey Bullock did in like preparation for installing the blocks and steals for the next season. So he didn't only trace it for the first official season; he traced it unofficially before that season. So how I knew about this was through a video by creator Jonny Arnett. Shout out to Jonny Arnett. He actually went through the whole because the Basketball Reference added the numbers, but they did not add it to the game log because the game log doesn't even have the role for steals and blocks. So you have to go to each game to see the ones that are added along with, of course, the season prior to the installation season because that was added as well. I think Wilt averaged 5.4 blocks in that season, which is crazy because it's the last season of his career and he averaged the second highest block average in league history. Um,
That's crazy.
yeah, so that was the last season of his career and it's almost a record breaking season. Now imagine what he did for throughout his career. So Johnny Arnett did a deep dive. To be honest, that's crazy effort. Shout out to him. I put the link of his video in the description. Although he said he'll do other videos like this for other players, he said it will be members only videos, unfortunately. So anyway, shout out to him. That was great effort. I don't blame him to be honest for making these members only. Um, like to go through 1,000 games to pick up the 100 games that were actually traceable is crazy effort. So yeah, that's crazy news. So thoughts, guys?
Yeah, so he went through it on. I think he went through it on Basketball Reference, and then you can go in and check each individual game. I think is how he did it, and there you
Mhm.
can see block numbers. I'll say two things. I'll say about this is that I think sometimes we forget that the number we see on Basketball Reference and the stat we see are not always the truth and are not always like these clean representations of reality. I think a lot of people call Hakeem Olajuwon the the says he has the most blocks in NBA history, which is not. It's I will bet my life that's not true, because Kareem is like 800 behind him, and four or five Kareem seasons blocks weren't tracked, and he averaged like 4 a game. So
Yeah.
you can
I'm
do
sure
the
we'll have that though. I'm sure we'll have that as well since we have those good
yeah.
seasons.
I
Um,
think the barrier for us to get the other guy's stats will be that this was specific. Harvey Pollack was just very ahead of his time in tracking these stats. He is also one of he has a lot of on-off numbers and plus minus like on-off numbers for these times. For the 76ers, I think you can find on-off numbers like back to 73 or something. like when he started working for
And
them.
he did it without even a computer. That's crazy. He did it like with his hands. That takes a lot of math, you know. So
He did like purpose, like he did tracking stats like we have traditionally today, and then he did it. So he's really a pioneer. So maybe we can get it in the future. I think one of the ways we could get it is by estimating the games we don't have using the games we do have. Because if you have 20 games, maybe you can use those 20 games to get some kind of guess for the rest of the 60 games. If it's
we lost. Yeah.
it's convenient. But yeah, that's something I think I might dabble in over the off season, see if I can get a good model to estimate some of these blocks and steals numbers.
Well, I mean, Johnny Arnett did a guesstimated blocks per game average for each season based on the games that were actually traced on Basketball Reference, and I think like Basketball Reference is reliable because they're only this is only available for 10% of Wilt's games. So
Yeah, they
if
only
it's
pick
only
the games they're sure of. They
yeah,
don't pick sure
they
of.
pick only the verifiable games. So that makes me trust the stat more. 10% is very low. So if they were out there for like shock value, they would have picked a bigger number.
Yeah,
But only 10% makes me trust it more because that means they only actually added what's like really verifiable. So that makes it like impressive. And like I think it's big news, even though, I'm not a big fan of Wilt, but it's groundbreaking that we have this now after all of these years. We're still discovering some stuff and being able to verify them is actually amazing. And I think like anyone who is a basketball fan or an NBA fan is interested in stats more than like the average fan of any other sport that I know of. So I think this should be talked about more. And like I said, I sent you the picture of like the games that he tracked Johnny Arnett, and it's basically uh,
it's
it's
a little
insane.
weird. I'm looking at one of the games from 1960 right now, and it's between the Celtics and the Philadelphia Warriors. So between Bill Russell and Wilt. And the only guys who have block numbers is Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain. No one else. Like it doesn't say zero. It just says there's no track number for blocks. So
Maybe they only added it for like
they
the
probably
star
just
players.
track the stars. It's my
Yeah, it's something that was done years after the fact. So I don't
this is
think people
also
who went back to like look at the tape for these games would stat track everything. I think they were just tracking the blocks of the star players and the steals maybe. But yeah, I mean, uh, through his um, through his breakdown, he actually discovered that Wilt has a quadruple double in the finals. So that is crazy. That's like a record. That's an NBA record. And I mean, a new record to Wilt Chamberlain is not gonna add anything to his legacy, but this one I think matters because having a quadruple double in the finals is crazy, no matter which era it is. I think that should be a standard record that we just like if the tape for that game is available and people can verify it, then I think that should be a record that we do not like underestimate, especially with all the talk about Tim Duncan's
yeah.
alleged uh, robbery of his two blocks. I think Ronnie Arnett did like a tape review of that game and found out he's only actually won.
I think I've watched that game as well, and like I think there's two blocks people think he should have gotten, and one of them it was clearly David Robinson who got it. So
Yeah, he said that as well. He did a tape breakdown of all the blocks of that game before and came up with that result. So it's 9 blocks. And so yeah, Wilt is so far the only one with a quadruple double in the finals or even in the playoffs at all, really. And
the only
yeah,
one with the tracked one is what we need to.
Yeah,
The only
so
one
far,
we have numbers for, so grain of
yeah,
salt.
we don't really. I mean, he hasn't done for Bill Russell and Nate Thurmond and all of them yet.
Kareem.
Yeah, Kareem maybe for the first 4 seasons. But he said he'll do them, but like I said, it's members only, so I don't know if I'll ever subscribe or not. Um, it's a bit like I don't know. I mean, I like his content, but I don't know if I have the budget for that now. Anyway, it's something that people should look at more. Like I think more creators should be interested in this and doing that
Oh
deep
yeah.
work. I
The
think
other
Jimmy High Roller will definitely do something with that at some point.
I reason it's also allegedly in a bit of a sense is because the assists you also need to check whether the assists are actually. I don't remember what he put the assist for, but if it's a 10, might have to check all 10 of those assists. But if it's a 20, he's probably good because there could be some assists where it's like that's not an assist because it's
I mean,
obviously
at that era, I don't know to be honest. Like, I give him the assist. Like, that's,
I
uh,
think this goes to my point that like just because something is on Basketball Reference, like do like just because it says 10 assists doesn't mean he passed the ball to 10 people who just shot a jump shot right after he passed him or they dunked it. Like it means that he passed it to someone who at some point shot and a scorekeeper and he scored and the scorekeeper put a 1 on the assist tool. Like it
yeah,
doesn't mean like just some critical sense is needed for these stats is what I'm trying to say.
no, I agree, but I mean, like, that will probably have to be done for every single triple double
Yeah,
then.
so for
But I
sure.
mean, I'm just like we're talking about blocks mainly. When we say quadruple double, the part
Blocks
where yeah,
blocks are pretty clean, but there's still he loses the ball before you block it. You didn't touch the ball. A teammate block it like with the David Robinson, Tim Duncan,
yeah.
steal instead of a block. Like there's something, not that a steal. Like if you get 5 steals and 5 blocks, in my mind, that's probably a quadruple double.
There's actually a crazy quadruple double that he found for Wilt. That I mean, I think this probably is the last thing I'll say about this. He found a game where Wilt had exactly 10 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, and 38 rebounds. And he shot 2 of 17 from the free throw line. Imagine having a quadruple double and having such a stinker of a game. That was crazy. 2 of 17 from the line is crazy.
Shout to Wilt. All right. Do you have anything more on this?
No, that's enough. But yeah, like I said, more people should look into this. And
It is a bit
we'll
weird,
to,
like it hasn't gone. I would expect this to go semi-rival. I haven't seen anything until
yeah, I
that.
don't know why he's the only one who talked about this, but I mean, he's done the work, and shout out to him. That's to his credit that he's the first one to talk about this and even do deep dives like this. Because he broke the news first with a video, and then 2 days later or 3 days later, he released the deep dive video with Will, um, that he kind of talked about making in the first video. So we'll have to wait and see. If no one else talks about this, I might actually subscribe to his channel, watch the rest. That's very interesting to me. Um, anyway, now we'll have to go to the main topic, which is the MVP and the 65 game rule. So first of all, let's act like it doesn't exist for a second and talk about the MVP race, because we're late to the party. Luca's already out of the race. So
There's
yeah,
one thing about for Luca and Cade. Luca is searching for an exception, an extraordinary circumstances exceptions, where he will use the birth of his child, which led him to miss 2 games in the middle of the season, where he can maybe get that to not count those missed games. It could probably also count, not that this would have mattered for DeAndre Ayton's snow game last year, where there is something so severe or so unforeseen or unnatural that you couldn't have played the game, and then you can get that to not count. So some of the things behind it is that you would have to say that this is what caused Luca to miss the 65 games, where there is a bit of an issue because he did also get suspended from one game. So a bit of this is on his own. But I would maybe imagine that the league give him that extraordinary exemption so he makes 65 game rule, because they have gotten beat up over this. So I could see him getting it. I don't think Kate's getting it, but I think Luca is.
I mean, I don't think he's winning the MVP either way, but of course that will help him with the first
All
team.
NBA. And he'll get
Uh,
votes. He'll definitely get top 5. But they have to decide now. Like the ballot's coming in tomorrow. Probably
yeah,
a few.
yeah, they should decide very quickly so that his All NBA is not lost at least.
Also,
Uh,
a funny thing is, if I'm not wrong, the MVP voters do it by they have a program, like they have a link or something they go into, and then they can pick the players. But if a player doesn't play 65 games, you can't pick him. You can't physically. You're not writing in names, and then you can't write in Lucas' name. It's just there. So
yeah,
that's a funny little
so
thing.
yeah, that would suck, to be honest, if he can even get an All NBA first team. Um, as for the MVP itself, though, because the discussion about the 65 game rule, I think we all agree now, and it's funny how like the second season they implemented the rule, like most of the stars either missed it or almost missed it. And even those who almost missed it, they didn't play like a lot of games more than the ones who are like who missed it. Like Luca played like 3 or 4 less games than Jokic and Wemby. So this is like he played more minutes than Wemby for sure. Um,
Yeah, Luca. Yeah, he did. He played
yeah, and
more.
that's part of the issue to me, and that's what I said. Like when I talked about it, I said maybe not having a number of games is bad because people just don't take it into consideration as much, and I think we had that debate in the group chat. But I still think what you said is closer to being more influential, at least, or more impactful, because not having the rule is definitely ruining players' legacies now. Um, like Luca definitely had an All NBA first team season. There is no doubt about that, and that is crazy. But I'll say this about the MVP race, and this is a thought that I had yesterday. Wimby's, of course, in the discussion, right? Um, to me, when he's on the court, he's the MVP. Let me just get that out of the way.
He's the permanent MVP. Is what you're trying to say?
When he's on the court, he's the most impactful player in the league.
Mm.
I mean, I've been high on Anthony Davis all my life. I'm not gonna come now and say that Wimby isn't. I mean, you get the point. I value that kind of impact on defense, and his offense is so good. So when he's on the court, he's the MVP to me. But the reason I don't actually even have him, like, I had him fourth if I had to choose between the four. To me, he was fourth because not only did he miss so many games, but also he missed so many minutes. And I think there has to be a point where you not being on the court matters a bit.
He plays 29.2 minutes per game and has played for the whole season. He's played 1,866 minutes. Luca has played 2,259. He's played like 400 minutes more than Wemby.
Yeah, while missing more game. And that to me is like the issue with that is like there are players who won sixth man of the year playing more minutes than Wimby played this season. At some point, we have to look at, like, for example, let me ask you this. Let's say 2013 LeBron, and he is almost a unanimous MVP, or 2016 Curry, or 2000 Shaq. If they played 24 minutes a game in those seasons, they would be the most impactful while they're on the court still. But would they win MVP?
If they played 29 minutes,
No, I said 24 minutes. Like, I'm going with the extreme route here.
but they're playing the same level as they did. They're not all of a sudden playing way better because they play less.
No, you cannot play better than they did, I think. Like, they're playing the same way, but less minutes. I think, no, but my answer is no. And I think when you play less minutes than the usual star, I think this affects how other teams plan against you. Like, if you have a star who's playing 36 minutes or 35 minutes, you're not going to have your whole game plan around the 12 minutes he's not on the court. That's not how you play basketball games. But if you have a guy missing like 20 minutes a game, you'll try your best to win those 20 minutes. And I think that matters. I think that's part of why his on-off numbers are so crazy, even though his team won when he was out.
He gets to play less than Luka, so he can put out way more energy in that. Like he gets it's 8 minute span where he can just go 100% because you know he's getting a rest. Whereas like Luka and Jokic maybe can't do that, so he can both up his energy, but also because his backup, which is Luke Kennard, who's a really good player actually, has
I love Luka.
To back him up, he also can't match him. But I think that's also. I do think I'm not as extreme with you. I do think he would probably be second or third, but that's why he's not number one. If he played 5 minutes more, if he played 5 more minutes per game, and been this level the entire regular season, then I think Shea could probably be in trouble.
Yeah, and that is actually my thing. It's not just about the number of minutes, it's the fact that he's load managing. Because you could play less minutes simply because you're blowing teams out. I mean, Shea is resting for
because then it's just because the games aren't competitive.
Steph did that in 2016 and Shea this season. We've seen that. So I'm not talking about the number of minutes specifically.
They did it more in 17 and 18, to be fair, the Warriors. He played less minutes in 17 and 15. He played more minutes in 2015-16, but that's also because they were chasing the record, so they were going like crazy in some games.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about here is different. I'm saying Wemby missed a lot of games, and they were winning in these games, and yet when he's playing, the non-Wemby minutes are much worse than the non-Wemby games.
Yeah,
that's my point. This is what I'm trying to convey here. This fact led me to believe that teams actually play for the non-Wemby minutes. They try to win the non-Wemby minutes, but they cannot do that in the non-Wemby games because they're just playing the Spurs. So to me, that's why the numbers, his on-off numbers, are not as accurate as other players. Because
to be fair, like they're not losing his off numbers. They're just winning his on numbers by 16
his off games. They're not as good as his off games. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But his on off is so crazy because his on is like 16.8.
Yeah, and to me, if you're playing on a team that is winning so many games without you, and you can still put that crazy plus, that means there is something wrong. I mean, no matter how good you are, there is something wrong. There has to be something wrong. And to me, the thing that is wrong is the number of minutes he's playing. I think if he's playing more minutes, the number will go down to the actual number, because teams will not try to target his off minutes as often as they are doing right now. and that's why to me he's not the MVP, because availability. This is the same argument I had against KD as a scorer in comparison to Michael Jordan, and like Steph. If he, when I said if Steph shot only 7 threes a game instead of 12 or 11, this is the same argument. Like the impact is the same. Like you're the same player. You didn't become a different player. Like KD is not a worse scorer talent wise because he's averaging like 5 less points, and Steph is not a worse shooter if he shot 4 threes less. But the impact of that on the 48 minutes becomes less, and that to me is why Wimby, like why I'm taxing Wimby like this, because I think it's easier to target them. Even if they're not actually doing that, I think it would make sense for them to do that.
But I'll also say, like, when in the stretch he was coming off the bench, his on off was also crazy. So it's not like it's not like people go in with these specific minutes they're thinking about, and then they're like, okay, we have to win these minutes. Like, even when we changed Wemby's minutes to be the latter, the not the start of the game, but the other cycles, like they're still killing people with Wemby on the floor. They're like plus 16 in that stretch.
Yeah,
They
and that
played
goes
OKC
to
three
the
times.
impact.
They played
That goes,
OKC three
yeah,
times. That was plus 16.
that
So
that is
not
how
much.
crazy his impact is. His rim deterrence is like I've never seen anything like it. I think I went on PC on the beginning of the season and said his impact reminds me of the four guys that I mentioned on the Mount Rushmore of impact when we were doing the top 10 video: Shaq and Steph and Tim Duncan and who was the fourth? I don't remember. Anyway, Bill Russell, yeah. His impact reminds me of them in the sense that even when he has a bad game, he could have 0 blocks and he's still the most impactful player on the court. And that to me is the crazy. That's why I think he's the most impactful player in the league. But I'm taxing his minutes, not just because teams, like I'm thinking teams are doing this, but because this is part of playing like less minutes than everybody. You can go crazy like that, and I think that's part of it. Like that has to be taxable in a way to me, and
I
that
do think it is part of it. I'm not disagreeing, but I still think he's a top three MVP candidate. But I do think it's part of
the reason I think he's four is simply because the other three are just crazy good. Like we're talking about a historic season from four different players, and three of them are doing that offensively, and I think they're doing it on different ways. Like Shea is doing it through consistency, which I haven't seen since peak LeBron, or even before peak LeBron. I have never seen this level of consistency from any other player other than him and LeBron, and maybe Warriors KD. That's like these are the three players I've seen be this consistent as scorers and offensive players in general. And then you got Jokic, who is very impactful as a playmaker and an offensive engine. And Luke is like a one-man engine. He can just score every bucket. He can literally score every play. Like this is to me the amount of carrying like Luka and Jokic are doing, and the amount of consistency to raise the ceiling of the Thunder that Shea is doing. I think it's like, yeah, the floor raising of Luka, the ceiling raising of Shea, and the combination of both from Jokic is so high. But Wimby's like, I don't even know what category to put him in. He's in the Tim Duncan category that I talked about. He's just so impactful, and it's hard to say what kind of team it is without him, because even though we've seen them without him, we know that they're like with him they're a different team, completely different team. So yeah, that's why I have him fourth simply because of at this level when we have four players playing at that level, we have to be nitpicky, I guess, and I'm nitpicking his lack of availability and pushing
So
the other three. That's it.
who is your 3 and 2?
Um, that's very difficult to say because I was initially pro Luca because, to be honest, it was a bias pick simply because I think he should win one, and this is the best season to win it. Um, but I mean, when you look at Shea and Jokic and Luca, their MVP cases to me are like very perfect. Shea has the most perfect one, of course, but I think he's less valuable in terms of actual necessity. Like his team is so good, and I don't know if I like to give MVPs to players whose teams are like that good. I usually have like an underdog story. I'm not into giving MVPs to players on teams that are that good. But I don't actually know if they're that good without Shea. I mean, they don't have anyone else that's scoring like that. So I guess it has to be Shea if I'm like being logical and being serious. Because any other pick would be disingenuous in a way, for me at least. But I still lean towards Lucas just as like a bias pick because of his due diligence, basically.
So your number one is Luca, is what I'm hearing.
As a bias pick, yeah, but if I'm being objective, he'd be number 3.
Okay, and your objective 1 and 2 would be
Shea number 1 and Jokic number 2, and very close number 2, by the way. Maybe I haven't spoken about him enough, but I'm like ever since he started his run in 2021, he's been the best player in the league, and I still think he's the best player in the league. But um, yeah, like I think we're voter fatiguing him to number
so
2, and yeah,
my number 4 is Luca, and then my 2 and 3 are Jokic at 3, and then Wemby at 2. But I could flip those two, and then my number 1 is Shea. And I also think Shea is the best player in the league right now. So I think we have a good disagreement here. We can maybe go into. I think first, what I think Jokic and Wemby just have had a higher impact in like, especially in their great stretch. Like Jokic first 32 games before the injuries. I don't think Luka has been near that in my opinion. But that was also an all-time great, like maybe a gold level of like regular season stretch. That might be how good it was.
okay. How many MVPs do you think he wins with that kind of season in the last, let's say, 10 years? This
When you
season, Luca, I mean.
this season Luca, I thought you were mean. Yeah, it's this season Luka. He probably wins 2023, maybe 21. I could see, yeah, 21. 19 I could hear, but maybe not. 18 is hard because the Rockets were so good and Harden was so good. 17 he could definitely win. But
So I'm hearing the 4th best MVP this season is winning like half of the last 10 years MVPs. And we've had some crazy competition.
I also said he could win. I'm not like.
Yeah, I get you. I
I don't
actually,
think there's
I know
anyone where
that.
he's like clear. 15
Yeah,
maybe. 16 no, of course.
no, 15 is like a lot of years could have won that 15 MVP. And I'm gonna lie, like
But it was also
2018 LeBron wins it. There are like 5 seasons of Kobe that would win it.
But I think we were still in the. I think Russell Westbrook kind of broke us out because it's funny because he averaged a triple double. It kind of broke with this. You have to win 60 games to win MVP. It kind of broke it in my mind because like people saw the triple double and like we have to give him the MVP. There's just no other choice. Like,
and the catch job was crazy. I'm gonna lie. Like if you've watched it in real time, I don't know if you started watching around.
I won money on it. I had a friend bet me he wouldn't win
Oh,
MVP, and I said he would. So I won money on him winning MVP.
wait, you were actually old enough to do that in 2017? That's crazy.
Oh, with a friend, I was around 18. I turned 18 in 2017.
Oh, really? I thought you were younger than that. Anyway, my bad. Um, so yeah, I say I'm saying that it's, and I know this may sound crazy. I actually think Shea is the fourth best player in the league, but it's not by a, like they're all on the same tier to me. I am not picking anyone above anyone, but I think it's Jokic, Wimby, Luka, and Shea. That's how I rank it in terms of best player in the league. And the reason is simply the playoffs for Shea, for like the for Luka and Jokic above Shea, but for Wemby it's simply the on court impact. If I'm taxing him with minutes for best player as well, he would be fourth and Shea would be third. But I don't tax on like who's the best player, like just who's the
But
best
I
player.
also I also think this season, this postseason will tell us a lot about Wemby.
And
More in the
about
sense of how many minutes he actually plays. If he plays 38, 40 minutes, then that kind of, like a lot of the things we talked about with his minutes, it kind of goes away. If he plays the same amount of minutes as Shea and Jokic, then okay. Like, yeah, he was taking it easy in the regular season. They won 61 games, and now he's in the playoffs ready to play the minutes he needs to play. I think the other thing, I think a lot of people expect him to go down in the postseason, which I maybe could see in offense, but
yeah, but
there's
I
also a
think his
chance
defense, yeah,
that
his
he
defense.
has that he's like 2023 AD, where just no one could score at the rim ever, and then you just won. They won two series because AD was that good, and Wemby's even better than AD on defense. So
Yeah. I
good
think
luck.
rim protection becomes like 10 times more valuable in the playoffs in the modern era. And we've seen it with many players. But with a guy like Wemby, who's even flexible to go outside, that would make him even better in the playoffs. But I do believe, and I think this is not really a crazy take at this point, that his defense would take a dip because the kind of offense, I mean, his offense would take a dip because the kind of offense he plays is the kind that falls in the playoffs. Like the face up game
I'm
that
also
Tobias.
really low on the supporting cast in offensively in the playoffs.
I mean, Stefan Castle could drop in the playoffs for the same reason because his game is also not very playoff friendly. But his defense is so good that I would not take him out of the court a
But
lot.
like, in De'Aaron, I don't think De'Aaron Fox has been that good this year.
But I think he'll
Demon
be good in
Dillon,
the
we like
playoffs. His
Demon
game
Dillon.
is, yeah. Darren Fox's game is very playoff friendly though. It's very playoff. Like if he's playing his game, I think in the playoffs he'd be the go-to guy. Devin Vassell as well will be very good in the playoffs if he translates because his style translates. But yeah,
That's
I
also
could
true. They were
see
not
I
like
could see. Oh, go on.
they
Go
were
on,
not
go on.
trying like when they just played the Nuggets the other like Saturday, a week ago, Sunday it was. But they were not just going at it was Saturday. I'm misremembering. But yeah, they were not just like a lot of good point guard teams just go spread pick and roll, attack Jokic every time. They weren't doing that. So I think maybe that's something they go to, but I was kind of surprised why they didn't do that with De'Aaron Fox. And I don't think he's been that good offensively this year. But maybe he gets better in the playoffs. I'd love to see it. I can't wait for the playoffs to get here. And
I think he's been way too ethical. He doesn't get to the free throw line at all. Like he just takes shots. And I know like that's his game, but like he's had some zero free throw games. This is not the way to go about it if you're like the Aaron Fox. I mean,
especially
he's
like a
way
great spot. Like just go
he's
for
way
it.
too good.
Dude, free.
He's way too good. He's way too good to be playing like this. I still trust his game. I was extremely high on him as a player in the Kings, and I even had him like top 10 at some point. I think it was the end of the 2023 season. But yeah, I hope he goes back to that form. But at least for now, I hope he at least becomes the ISO scoring option for them in the half court in the playoffs this season. Because Wemby will need that, and Devin Vassell cannot carry it all alone. Like he's not, he's good, but his volume is not enough to carry a team in the playoffs. And Castle will shoot them out of games if they rely on him the way they do in the regular season. I mean, or maybe he can just turn it on. I don't know. Maybe he becomes a monster in the playoffs,
I
breaking
look,
the.
I look forward to see it. Okay, let's get back to the MVP a little bit. We got on a tangent. I'm like, so yeah, my number one is Shea is, and he's also my best player in the world right now. I think the difference between Shea and like Jokic and Luka is that I think Shea is the only one of those three that could be on a 67, 65 win team realistically, because those other two's offense or defense isn't good enough. Like the defensive the
Mhm.
defensive ceiling they kind of hold you to, like your ceiling as a defense can't go as high with Jokic and Luka on your team as it can with Shea, because he can participate in this great OKC defense, which gets a little bit better when he's off the court, but like that's point 2 points per 100 possessions. It's nothing. Like their defense is what's carrying them, and because he is in this place to just attack it over like Jokic and Luka. On normal teams, he wouldn't be attacked because normal teams have worse defenders to go at. I just think he is, and on offense, he might be like, I think he's probably right behind Jokic as the best offensive player in the league, if not up there.
You
Because
have a better offensive player than Luca already.
I think with Shea, it's just he is so unguardable as a scorer. Like he forces any team, like he forced the Rock in the first game of the season, in when it went to overtime, he forced them to put two on the wall like every time, because Amin Thompson could do nothing with them. Like Amin Thompson had no hope of guiding Shea down the stretch, and no one does. And that's also like his clutch performance has also been outrageous this year.
Yeah, but I think Luca's also unguardable. Like I don't see how Shea is a better offensive player than Luca.
I think he's a better scorer than Luka. I think he's
I
just
just
I think it's just he forces you to put two on the ball in the way that Jokic and Luka just doesn't. When he's pick and roll and just picks on a guy, or even one on one on like Thompson, like I talk about, and he forces, like he just gets like either into his pull up, into his mid range game, or into a comfortable pull up, or to the rim, or force you to foul him so easily right now. Like it's so easy and so hard to guard that there's
yeah,
like it's
I
it's just
agree, but I think Luca does the same thing with better passing when he's actually doubled. Like
I don't
that's
I
just
don't I just don't think that. That's my problem. I don't think people are like, it's not like every team is putting two on the ball with Luca like they are with Shea.
I
That's my point.
don't think teams like whether they do it or not. He always makes an efficient play on with the ball in his hands. I like his um ability. I think Shea is like that this regular season. He's better than any year I've seen him. Like his game is more polished. But I'm waiting to see it in the playoffs because last season I also felt like it was more polished than before, and his playoffs he looked a bit less dominant than he usually is. So I'm waiting for that. If he does what he's doing now in the playoffs, yeah, he's over these guys. But for now, I'll have to wait because he's failed me in the last playoffs and the playoffs before that. And I've been a big fan of him since he came into the league, actually. Like, even as a rookie, I was watching him. Like, I liked his game a lot. And even his defense, I think, is actually underrated. People think he cannot defend simply because he doesn't take those assignments. But that's like saying Michael Jordan couldn't defend. I mean, Scotty took the assignments, Ron Harper took the assignments, but MJ could defend like them if he chose to. And I think Shea is actually a great defender. Not just good, I think he's a great defender. Pre superstar era, Shea was a great defender. If people actually remember, like young Shea, his defense was one of his strengths. It wasn't even in like average, it was way above average.
I
He's
think I
just
also think, like, also the reason that people pick on him is because, like, they have maybe the 3 of the 5 best guard defenders in the league, and 2 of the best big man defenders in the league, and 1 of the best wing defenders in the league, and even their offensive role players are decent defenders. Like, they're just they're a defensive super team. I don't know how to say it otherwise,
yeah.
because
Dort
every single
Caruso and Chet is crazy. Having Dort Caruso, Chet, like
Jason Wallace is amazing.
Wallace is crazy as well.
Hardenstein,
Oh my god.
J Dub when he's healthy, the other Jalen Williams, even Isaiah Joe and what's his name? The point guard they have, not McCain, the other one. I forget his name.
Yeah.
AJ Mitchell. AJ Mitchell. Like, even
Yeah.
they're not terrible. Like, you're not talking about Trae Young. Like, they're like meh defenders. Like, even their offensive role players are like meh. Like, they're so good on defense. It's absolutely, and that's like like when Shea's off, they're plus 7-3. When he's on, they're plus 16-2. And the reason they're plus 7-3 is that their defense is 9.8 better than league average defense when he's off the floor. When he's on, it's 9.6. It's just their defense is just that good.
The last defensive super team like that I've seen were probably the 08 Celtics.
Yeah, the 04 Pistons. It was probably
Yeah, but I haven't seen them. I mean, I was not watching yet. I mean, I watched them like in replay, but live, I think the 08 Pistons were just crazy. KG, KG Perkins, Tony Allen,
the
and in
2020
2020 they added Rasheed Wallace later.
The 2020 Bucks, I would also put in that category.
Yeah, they were great as well, but I don't remember them that well, to be honest, because 2020 is one of the years I just
they had Bledsoe that year, Middleton, Giannis, Lopez.
Yeah, I remember the team. I just I didn't watch as much basketball in 2020 as in any other year. Like, I skipped a lot of basketball that year. So I don't like the bubble thing made me disinterested, and Kobe's death. Like, there was a lot going on. It made me not watch for a while.
The 2022 Celtics as well.
Oh amazing. Yeah,
until they played Steph Curry.
Yeah, exactly. Until they faced Steph, and he just proved that he's an alien. But yeah. Now we can, like, what was the third? Yeah, we already covered the 3 topics, but let's talk about. I mean, we still have a lot of time. We still like.
I think 65 game rule we need to talk more about. We
need to offer alternatives, but I don't think you even want. You just want it gone. I don't think you want an actual alternative.
I think So I think the first thing you need to talk about is 65 game rule is it's not an awards rule. It's not meant to improve how awards are voted for. It's meant to combat load management. But like, the problem is, the reason these players aren't playing 65 games, it's not because of load management. It's because they can't. It's because they physically cannot play 65 games. It's too much, and the season is too compact, and there's just not, like, the body can't hold up playing this style of basketball for that many games.
Michael Bridges isn't complaining.
What?
Michael Bridges isn't complaining.
Yeah, but he's like one player. Like, and it's also like all of these guys are the stars. I think Thinking Basketball had like a video where they had the hard cut. They tracked the hard cuts of like 3 players from each era, and it was like all of the current stars, even AD, hard cut as much as like Reggie Miller did in the 90s. And Reggie Miller ran around the court like Steph Curry in the 90s on offense, like hard cuts everywhere. Like, his play style was basically just running off the ball, which is that's gonna generate hard cuts.
Why is AD the example?
Because he was one of them. Like, he was like a mobile big that kind of fit in. And Hakeem was like half the cuts of AD. So it's like, yeah, if you're 7 foot tall and have to move it like cut as much as Reggie Miller or LeBron James or Steph Curry, then you're probably gonna get injured at some point. Like it's just how things work.
Yeah,
And
but you said, I think you said before that the solution to this is just decreasing the number of games.
yes, that is definitely my big take on this has always been the number one problem for the NBA is that we have not have healthy teams in the playoffs. That has
Mm.
ruined so many playoff series the last. I think if you go back to the last 7 playoffs or whatever, you could probably find 1 or 2 series between high level teams that wasn't heavily impacted by injuries.
Yeah,
It's
that's like every season. Yeah,
it's
we've had
every
this, but I will say this: we've had it throughout the 2010s specifically, and a bit in the 90s as well. I think the NBA is like this is the first time we had the second decade in a row with this issue, because the 90s had a lot of injury prone players come into the league, and then the 2000 stars were very healthy, and then the 2010s came and it was a lot of injury prone players like John Wall, Chris Paul, like AD, Steph, KD, Kawhi, Paul George, Gordon Hayward. Like we had all of these guys as well. So it's been like that since the beginning of the 2010s. And I actually did some research on that, but we can have that topic in a different video. For now, let's talk about this particular issue, which is the number of games. I think there is a better solution than decreasing the number of games because you need it to stay the same for like records and stuff. So for me, the number should be lower. I mean, the number that we need to change is the number of months of the season. I think there is no reason for the NBA to rest for 6 months. This is too long. You don't need 6 months without basketball. Most sports survive on like a few months. So if they start the season in late August, that would solve the problem. And I don't know why they don't do it. Like
because
most,
all the American sports run that way. Like football is from September to February, and baseball is from April to October. Like they all have 6 months off seasons.
that's crazy though. Not like I think the solution is that like if the players don't want to get injured, they have to agree to have a 3 months or a 4 months of like if you make the playoffs, it's going to be 3 months. If you make the finals, it's going to be like 2.5 months. If you don't make either, it will be like 5 months. So you will still have like long, but having a 6 months off season for non-playoff teams and a 5 months off season for
I
playoff
mean,
teams is too
soccer,
much.
if I'm not wrong, soccer is probably both, right? Because a good soccer team, like a Premier League, Champions League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup team, plays around 60, like probably 55 games a season. And their season is from September to
For
June.
August, it starts in August and it ends in June.
Yeah, August to June.
That's
So
crazy.
like because soccer is set up to like 1 game a week, which I do think the soccer is 1 game a week and then 2 games a week when you get like the Champions League games and the cup
Mm,
games.
yeah, but they still play also like national team games and stuff. But what I'm saying here is just like I don't even want it to be like soccer only 2 months. Especially because even like if it's not a great team, they will still end in May, not in June, so it will only be 3 months.
They
I'm
end
saying
to be fair. They end
no,
mid-April.
like it depends on the league. It ends in May sometimes. The leagues sometimes end in May.
Oh, I was talking about the NBA. Yeah, the NBA
No,
is
no. I mean like even the bad teams in soccer, the
yeah.
ones that don't make it to the final, they will end in like middle to late May. The Champions League final is only like 10 days after the last league game, usually. It's not that long after. In the playoffs, in the NBA, you play like 2 extra months. or like a month and a half. And that
Yes.
to me is like it makes the off season from 4.5 months to 6 months, sometimes like 6.5 months even. Depends on when in October they start.
Soccer players also don't really have off seasons. They also like because the good players play national team during the summer, every other summer.
And the bad players play these friendly tournaments that no one cares about.
Yeah,
They have to go back for training camp in like late July. So they really only take like 1 month off. And that month is not off if there's a World Cup or something. So yeah, like it is it's a there is no rest in football. But in basketball there's a very long rest. I think there's a place between where you can have 3 to 4 months, depending on if you make the playoffs or not. And it will make the players healthier. If they start the season in September, and they could
but
actually make it so that the two teams that make the finals, they can start like 2 weeks later, so that
it's an
they
unbalanced
have
schedule.
like they have like more rest. Um,
I
and
think
have
I think the reason the NBA doesn't do that is they don't want to go up against the NFL and college football. Is the big problem because they never win that.
it
Like
doesn't matter though. It's a few weeks. It's like 2 or 3 weeks, and people will watch. A lot of like the NBA is way more global than these sports. No one outside of the US cares about football or baseball.
but the problem I think they still make way too much money based on it's the American viewers that really bring in the revenue. But the problem with that is that the American viewers watch football before they watch basketball. So they really don't want to go up against the NFL and college football.
Like I said,
And
it's
that
only
is my other
just a
reason
few
for
weeks won't hurt
shortening
anyone.
the season is then that you can kind of my bad focus because the NFL is set up that it's focused almost exclusively like Sunday, and they have one game on Thursday. So they play every team plays Sunday and Thursday, and then like no Sunday, and then two teams plays Thursday because football is way too physical that you can play it more than once a week. So what I think the NBA should do is shortening the seasons like two games. You play each team two times, and then we try as much to own Tuesday and Fridays because those are kind of the days of the week that is not really taken by anyone, and it's spaced out by like 3 days so we can get more. And also, if you just shorten the season to 62, for one, the record thing, I personally don't care at all. And I don't really think other people should care. Like LeBron just broke the scoring record. And the only thing I've heard about that ever since is that it's only because of longevity. Like I've heard
Did
longevity.
that these
I've heard
records?
that, yeah, it matters, but it's not like, it's also like, who cares? Like,
Yeah, but also the winning records is like the 73 win record. The Thunder were going for it before
yeah,
they faced the Spurs
it
three
creates
times.
small storyline. It creates small storylines. But the other thing is also you can just do like you could do the winning percentage, and in 10 years, then you'll have new records that they can start chasing. Then
I
that's a different winning record you can start chasing.
I think if the reason they can't have games in September is because of marketing, then they need the 82 games for the marketing of these records. I think that's a bigger deal than a few games uh, in the early season.
I I would be shocked if more than like 3,000 people would not watch the NBA because the records all of a sudden doesn't change. Like it
No, it's
change.
not. But it's like the storylines. The storylines create a lot more attraction than you think. I think the marketing does matter,
The
and
other
they
thing
would
is
not be able to
when you
market it
don't,
like that.
because right now the NBA's market model is set up like how it's set up is for to just cram games down people's throat. Like every opportunity, like every day there has to be like 8 games, which is just you're just flooding it too much. Which that worked in the 90s and the 2000s when TV watching was like, okay, I go on my TV, I zap on, and then I just, oh, there's a game on, I'll watch that. But today that doesn't work because today you're competing with streaming. You're not competing with the show that's randomly on a Thursday night on ABC. What you're competing with is streaming, the TV shows people watched, the NFL on Sunday. It's like this business model of just cramming things down people's throat in so much volume. I just don't think it works anymore, which is where I think fewer games and having nights where there's no games so we can focus on nights where there are games just works much more. Or like fewer games a night. Like if you have 2 games every night, then there's time to focus on these games. There's time to hype up these games. There's time for the local market. If it's, I don't know, Warriors taking on Atlanta, for them to like, okay, there's 2 days to the game. We can start like kind of hyping it up. They're coming to town. Come see it. It's on the local TV. It's on national TV. You can have more national TV games like as well. You can have the same number of national TV games, and they actually matter because you're not spreading everything out. Because right now, oh, the Bulls fans watch the Bulls, and then the Raptors fans watch the Raptors, and everywhere. But it's just not a very feasible way, I think, anymore of conducting business to just completely load up the volume of games you send, because that's just not how people watch television anymore. Right now they watch, okay, I want to plan what I want to see, which is also why all of the games that have been awesome, like it's always been the games we looked forward to. It's been the Christmas games, NBA Cup games, the Nuggets Spurs that mattered for seeding. It's not these random, like the BAM 83 game was such a relief because it gave us a random regular season night, something good
to talk about for 2 weeks. Yeah. But I do think the discourse around the NBA that makes people come back to watch games after stopping usually starts with some random record being broken, like, oh, Russell Westbrook moved up 1 place in scoring, and people will start watching to see these moments. I think it does bring an element that you don't want to give up entirely. And I think when you look at 1 month edition, like my suggestion, even if you don't do it like 2 months, even if it's just 1 month, that would make,
middle of September.
yeah, if you start in the middle of September, which is not going to destroy anything, you're just going to replace the preseason games with the actual regular season. Maybe reduce the number of preseason games. I don't even know why they have like 10 preseason games. They don't need all of that. 2 would be enough. So if you just use the preseason game time for a month of NBA games, you have 30 extra days. That would make it doable for each team to play only 1 game every 3 days. And I think that will help a lot. I think if you have 1 game every 3 days and maybe once every like 10 games, you have a game every 2 days. And of course that eliminates back-to-backs forever. I think that would be a game changer.
I do think that is definitely not a bad idea. To
Yeah,
spread it out.
I'm saying that even if you don't go extreme for like a month and a half or 2 months, like my initial suggestion, even 1 month, which they already are in the team, they are playing preseason games and training camp and stuff. Like they're not taking that time off. If you use that time for regular season games, you can eliminate back-to-backs forever, and you can have a lot more of the regular being a game every 3 days. So you have 1 game a day, and then you have 2 days off. And I think that would be great for conditioning, great for recovery, and that would eliminate a lot of injuries and still have the same time off. So players will not have to complain about it much. I don't think they care enough about the preseason to say, oh, like, we cannot replace the preseason games with regular season games.
I will say the one issue in that is that they usually use the preseason games for international games. They
can have that for the 2 games that I talked about. Like you can have
just
two,
have them play like the 2 preseason game. They just played like Madrid or something. Everyone plays
yeah.
one non-US teams. I think you could do that. Just do that for like one preseason game. That's not I like because it's essentially a bit of the same idea, and I just think also I think the one issue with that is that you're also killing the start of the NBA season because it's the start of the football season, and Americans just care way more about the NFL than they care about the NBA.
Okay,
So
then you just said they have fixed time for the NFL games. You can play the NBA games in the
yeah,
other.
my point was more like the hype around the NBA starting kind of dies because the hype is around the NFL starting. Like people are going to just think about the NFL starting and not about the NBA starting. Where when it's in October, you kind of get in the habit. Okay, I'm watching NFL, and now the NBA is starting. Like you can get the hype more in than now, where it's like football season. Like that's like the NFL is so scared of. Like the NBA is so scared of the NFL. They make so many. I think the Lakers have always had more. Their schedule is usually a lot of backloaded because they play all their marquee matchups after the Super Bowl because that's usually when they can start to drive TV. It's like after the NFL season is over.
Yeah, but I think that's still less impactful than removing all of the records and making them irrelevant. Like,
I mean, you're essentially just moving the total records, like the total
yeah,
records. What and
but
also
all
in the
total
NBA,
records across the board, though, that's a lot.
but like okay, okay, let's try something a little funny here. What is Lucas averaging points per game this season? What do you think?
33.
What's his total points?
I think about 2000 and something. I don't know, like 2000 something. Around 2000.
You see, like my point is, we always we know his points per game average. We kind of know off the top of our head because that's all we care. We focus on when it comes to in season.
Yeah, I'm talking about legacies. Like legacies of players are like Kareem was in the GOAT conversation for his totals most. Like I
But
mean,
don't you just think we'll start focusing on the per game leaders and not the total
we
leaders?
already focus on that. It adds more discussions and more like reach. I think that does. I think they do care about that. Like they do. They will not. They haven't touched that forever for a reason. I think the solution is, like I said, just replace the preseason games and the training camp with more regular season games, and that would solve the issue. You can have a slow start to the season. No one cares. Like it's just a few games. The number of games will be like 10 games. I mean, you have a 7 month regular season. If it was an 8 month season, it would be exactly a game every 3 days. So if you have a 7 month season, that means a game every 3 days, but there is one game every 7 games that you play after 2 days instead of three. So that would be a lot less stressful just by adding 1 month worth of games. So yeah, I think that would solve the issue without creating this entirely new system of statistics that you want to do.
But it's not like
I'm,
creating. I think it's just gonna happen organically. Like as soon as you make the league this season, I also haven't kind of figured out what the repercussions of a shorter amount of without real NBA games and a longer season with real NBA games means for the body. So there could be some consequences in that, which I'm not entirely sure of. It could also be a mix where they expand the season by 2 weeks and then they play 70 games a season, essentially. Because the thing is the records are already impacted because no one is playing 82. I think
yep,
Shea's
that's playing close enough.
What?
They're playing close enough. And also, if they reduce the number of games and play the same number of months, it would still be crowded.
Yeah, but I mean,
And
if
they
you
would
did
miss games.
your idea,
They get-
if you did
they
both
get-
of our ideas, so Shea is gonna play 69 games. So let's say we played 70 games a season in 2 more weeks. Let's say 2 more weeks, 3 more weeks. It could be 2 or 3, whatever. Then we can spread it out even more. and we
Yeah,
play
I
like
just
the players are gonna play the exact same number of games probably.
yeah,
Like I
I
don't
just
think Shea might play 3 games less than he otherwise would.
I don't want to play with the number of games, to be honest. It's just maybe it's just me. I'm more of a because it like if we look at the Premier League, I'm kind of pissed low key that we cannot compare the modern Premier League to the old Premier League, and the numbers are isolated from the mid '90s to now. Like this is making me like I don't know who the leading scorers are and stuff like that. But yeah, that's an issue to me. Like
The funny thing is
splitting
the
the
toss to it. Like
it
Liverpool,
does
the leading Liverpool scorer is what's his name? Keegan? Who is the
Ian
Liverpool player?
Rush. I think it's Ian Rush,
Ian Rush is yeah, that's his name.
and we don't know how many league goals he has or like per season. It's splitting the history in two is already like it has impacted.
Oh no, they know. It's on
Yeah,
their
but it
site.
has impacted it. Like for now, like we know that the most goals in a season, for example, is Holland, and we don't know. I mean, maybe someone did more before the '90s, before it became the English Premier League. So I think splitting history like that will not work well in the NBA because people care too much about stats. We already like we talked about this earlier in the episode. People care so much about stats. By the way, something I think came to my mind I wanted to talk about, and it's not going to take long. The play-in. I think they should remove the play-in,
Oh no, I
and
love the
I want it to be. I don't want it abolished entirely, but what I want what I want it to be is just if there are two teams that are two games, like let's say the eighth seed is 42 and 40, and the ninth seed is 40 and 42. Yeah, let's have a playing game there. But if they're 39 and 43, no, let's go home.
I just want to say something because you can actually find out how many goals people like. I'm looking the leading scorer, league scorer in Liverpool
You can
history.
find it out, but it's not how, when you're looking at the news every day, the coverage of the league does not take any
They
of
only
that.
use the Premier League because that's an entirely different league than the league before. Just like the NBA and the ABA and the NBL and stuff.
And that's
Like
what will
ABA
happen.
stats doesn't really count for NBA. To be fair,
If like we already have pre-shot clock and since shot clock, we have pre 3-point line and
Free
post
shot clock doesn't
pre
count.
merger and post merger. I think we will have the same issue. We will have pre 82 and post 82 if you do that. And I don't like that. I don't like the fact that we have pre merger and post merger anyway. Like I like it more when you can compare ears in a way.
I think what I will say, I think that's just a false. That's a false sense of security you have right now, because what you should have a pre stars only playing 70 games and a post playing. Like at some point, probably in 2019, 2020, 2018, like stars just started playing 70, 65 games, and like it's all a choice. Like no one is forcing you to do a pre and post. It's just way more obvious when the league says you can only play 70 games, rather when they just don't play 70 games. Like no one is playing 70 games. Shea's gonna play 69 or 68. 68, I think is what I've
No,
seen.
I get you. I'm just saying like we already agree that there is an issue. What I'm saying is if you reduce the number of games, you don't know if they will try to play every game. They can still load manage. That's another issue. They can still play 20 less games. Like let's say you make it 70 and people are suddenly playing 50 to 55 games. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. Because one injury is going to make them miss a lot of games still. But if you extend the season by a month, that would not only reduce the injuries but also keep the number of games that players play like intact with the schedule. Also, one other thing is they will have to adjust the schedule and make some crazy changes that I don't think they can do now. it will take some time for them to figure out a formula on how to do the schedule on less games. But
I mean, the obvious one is if it's 62 with expansion, it's just one home and away against each team, like the Premier League.
yeah, but 62 is way too low though. I was thinking 70 is more rational, but 62 for the NBA is not good. I think just adding a month and keeping the same thing intact, you would have at least the number of, because if you only have 2 meetings between each team a season, if one star gets a cramp and misses that game, now you cannot see them in that arena anymore.
But I mean,
I
you
think
can't. I think, but I think my issue with a lot of these things is like these things are happening right now. Like all of the East teams can only see Shea once. Like Shea is only playing against each East teams one time
yeah,
in their.
but if there is a chance for him to miss a game, that would be a bigger issue if they are if they're playing this game. Like every game will have more weight, and adding more weight to a game like basketball where injuries are so frequent either way, like even if there are less injuries, they will still be frequent. We're just hoping to have less missed games due to injuries, really. So extending the season would make the weight of every missed game less, like it would make it value less. But if you're missing 15 games out of 62, your season is basically half a season from what it was before.
But isn't
That
that
would
also
be so bad.
right now? Like one of the problems right now with the NBA is that the games don't matter. Like no one like it. No one cares what happens in a December game because it matters for literally nothing. Like a random OKC Atlanta game in December. If OKC loses, okay, the only reason it ever matters is when they were on the 25 game streak because people started caring a little bit. But it's like the regular season is so devalued right now because there's so many games. Whereas in the NFL, which it's not going to get to the NFL because the NFL is 17 games. Like every game in the NFL matters infinitely more than in any NBA game. It matters so much because that one game can be the difference between you having a bye or not having a bye, or making the playoffs, not making the playoffs, getting home field, not getting home field. Like it's such a big difference from just that one game because it's 1 out of 17. Whereas in the NBA, it's like, okay, like it's 1 out of 82. Like we'll get our chance tomorrow. Like it's just the fan don't really care about the game right now. It's also probably a big issue. The NBA's business.
Yeah, we can agree to disagree on the number of games thing, but what do you think about the play-in thing that I mentioned? Like, I think there has to be a small gap. Like 2 games is the maximum I can go, and that's it. I would not go. Like, if you're not within 2 games from the 8th seed, you should not be playing for the playoffs.
I think I agree with that. That was what they did the first year in the bubble.
Yeah.
With the
It was a
the
good.
Blazers had a crazy stretch to catch the Grizzlies, and then they beat them 2 out of 3 times to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the initial idea was good. They just having 4 teams just compete every single year, when like the 7th seed can be like 7 games ahead of the 10th seed. That to me makes no sense. I think
Yeah.
there has to be a limited number of games between you and the 8th seed for you to qualify. So we could potentially have like 4 teams still from 8 to 11 maybe. But I think if you're the 7th seed, you should be safe unless you have the same number of wins and losses as the 8th seed. So basically, my idea is you have to be within 2 games
I
from.
like the idea. I'm not against the idea. Don't get me wrong. I think one of the problems with it is that it just makes it harder to sell for TV. Like right now, it's planned what you get. Like you get this game and this game, which makes it easier. It's just easier to sell the game, both from like commercial. Like I think from a competitive point of view, it makes sense, and from my enjoyment point of view, I don't want the 35 win Warriors to play the 45 win Blazers who made the 9th seed in a competitive West. Like the Blazers just get a bye and they play whoever lost the 7-8 games. I agree with you from a sporting perspective. I think it's just also because it's such a quick turnaround. So I think it's just easier to do it the other way. And if you are the 10 seed, 10 games behind, you're probably not making the playoffs anyway because you have to win 2 games
You
to get
could, depending on the injury. I
Maybe.
mean, the Warriors were so good before Steph got injured, so who knows? They were like comfortably above 500, and now they're comfortably below 500. They lost a lot.
Absolutely no rush on the Warriors to do anything to win any games right now because there's 3 conferences in the NBA: the East, the West, and the tracks. There's East, there's West, and then there's trash. There's 10 teams. They're equal size. There's 10 teams who's completely garbage. Like all 20 of the East and West teams win 99 out of 100 games against the 20 trash teams. Maybe except like the Kings and Blazers, because not the Blazers, the Pelicans, because the Pelicans are actually trying a little bit, and the Kings are too dumb to understand they have to tank. Like Kings don't understand the concept that they shouldn't.
I think it's not about being too dumb. I think they're just too good to tank against these worst teams. It's not about being too dumb. Like, if you have Russell Westbrook, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Domantas Sabonis, and you're trying to lose to the Wizards, you're not going to be able to make it look clean, at least. Like this.
But here's the problem. Before all of this tanking started, they were the worst or second worst team. Like, they were the best. Like, all of these terrible teams were better than them. And then the tanking started, and they somehow just won over all of them because they hadn't figured out, okay, DeMar, you have a calf strain tonight. Russ, them triple doubles don't have to wait. Quad strain.
They're sitting him down now, aren't they? They've been sitting him down.
Did you know? Okay, we got to talk about this because this got me riled up. The Grizzlies Jazz. I said this in the group chat. The Grizzlies Jazz game last night, the Grizzlies had 14 players out. They had 1 player that wasn't on either a 10-day or a 2-way. 1. And all the 10 days were like hardship 10 days. Like 10 days they signed because they like made up injuries for all their not even good players. They're young, somehow a little bit promising because they're tanking so hard. And the Jazz had like 8 players on the injury report. The injury report, I screenshotted it for the group. It was 3 screenshots. You couldn't get it in one. It was like 1, 2, and 3. This, like, the tanking right now is all time bad.
Yeah, someone called it the Super Bowl of tanking, that game.
Okay, we're gonna actually, because we're here now. We're gonna do an impromptu talking about these last couple years because I hope there's a double tank game somewhere. Somewhere. I hope we have a double tank game, like a game where both teams want to lose. So let's just cross off through all of the final games of tomorrow. So Hornets play Knicks. I think the Knicks don't really have anything to play for. So that doesn't really matter, but they could play young guys and win. I wouldn't, but the Hornets are playing to get the Heat at home. Then the Magic are playing the Celtics. That could be competitive. Hawks are playing the Heat. I don't really think the Hawks have that much to play for. The Nets are playing the Raptors, and the Raptors are going to win that one. I'm going to tell you all that right now. And let me just pull up the standing so I have that beside me. Just to check out the Nets. The Nets, if the Nets lose and the Pacers win, then there is a chance that they could have the same odds in the lottery. And the Pacers play the Pistons who have nothing to play for. So the Pacers probably going to lose and make sure that happens. Washington have already secured the number 1 odds, so they don't have an incentive to tank. They're playing Cleveland, but they'll probably just lose out of habit. The Bucks are playing the Sixers. Maybe Giannis's last game for the Bucks. If they lose and the Bulls win, they could potentially tie the Bulls in
Are they
lottery odds.
actually going to play Giannis though?
No,
Okay.
he wanted to play the last home game, and they didn't let him. Warriors are playing the Clippers. That matters for the Clippers. Could potentially jump the Blazers, but the Blazers are playing the Kings. So
Okay.
if the Kings know what they're doing, they'll lose that game. But the Kings might not know what they're doing, so that
I
could be
mean,
an
Russell Westbrook hasn't been playing in a long time,
yeah.
so
The Warriors have nothing to play for, by the way. So the Clippers should probably win. The Blazers have whether they're the 8 or the 9 to play for. If they win, they'll be the 8 in the play-in, which matters a lot. But they are playing the Kings, so that could be an interesting game, just because the Kings might not know they have to tank. So if you want something fun to watch, that could be a game. But
maybe
the
they
Kings,
have some dignity. I mean, I don't know why you're so mad about it.
why I don't even like. It's just
we
dumb.
should, we should
Look at
just
the
no.
Timberwolves.
Here's the thing. Here's my issue with this. The reason it's dumb is because 9 other teams are tanking. If we had a normal season where like 1 or 2 teams are tanking, we would not be this mad at the Kings. That would be just normal basketball.
I think we have a double tank game. The Bulls are playing the Mavericks.
Okay.
If the Bulls win, then they will be tied for Milwaukee for lottery odds. And the Mavericks are currently tied with the Grizzlies in the standings. So Mavs have every intention to lose that game, and so does the Bulls. So that could be a double tanker to look out for. That close, I might want to check that out if it's close. I'm not going to be up until
Did
2.
you actually enjoy watching that?
I think the most infamous double tank game in NBA history was the Clippers versus the Thunder in 2021, where the Clippers wanted to avoid being on the same side as like the Lakers, so they wanted to lose, and the Thunder was trying to lose for like lottery odds, and I kid you not, it was Poku, and his name was Daniel Otoro, and Ty Lue ran like an ISO post up for Daniel Otoro, and you've never heard his name before, and I'm probably not saying it right, like 6 straight times down the stretch. Like both teams, even the coaches, were trying to tank that game. So yes, when it's tight, it can be enjoyable. The Grizzlies are playing the Rockets; they're gonna lose. The Jazz are playing the Lakers. The Lakers are gonna win. And then here's one to look out for: the Denver are playing the Spurs. The Denver Nuggets just played the Thunder a couple of days ago. If Denver loses and Lakers win, then Denver ends up on the same bracket as OKC instead of the same bracket as San Antonio, because they'll be the 4 instead of the 3. But Denver just played OKC here last night, and they sat all their starters. So the indication is that they actually want to lose. So you could look for the Denver to actually try to tank that game to get into the OKC bracket, which means they also play the Rockets in round 1 instead of the Timberwolves.
The teams are more afraid of the Spurs.
No, I think the thought process is you can either play the Wolves, then Spurs, then Thunder, or you can play the Rockets, then Thunder, then probably Spurs.
Yeah, so it's more about the
It's
Rockets.
more that you're going to have to play both the Thunder and the Spurs either way, so you would rather just not play the Wolves, because they have been kind of a tough matchup with Denver. They could also beat San Antonio in that second round. That wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world if they beat them. So there's some merit to being over in the Thunder retired bracket. So
didn't someone on PC say that the Lakers are faking these injuries in order to be in?
No one takes what he says seriously.
I mean, what if he's right? He was right about Rui Hashimura, wasn't he?
Nah, he wasn't. He lost that debate in 15 seconds.
He did, but at the same time, I bet you no one in the chat knew that what his answer was the correct statistic.
Yeah,
Rui Hashimura was the number 1 mid-range shooter in the league when that was said. So he randomly guessed the player who's actually number one. And I think it takes a lot of eye test to do that. Like, that's S tier eye test.
But
But I mean, it's a wrong take, but to guess the player like that without look, because he didn't have time to look it up. To guess that take like that on the fly, that takes elite eye test. And I think we should be rewarding him for that instead of making fun of him. That like some of these takes are like that. They're so bad. But yeah,
Luka's
Go
not
on.
like even a dead clock is right twice a day. So I mean, Luka's not faking. Like you saw him pull up, like, and they're also not about to not have him make All NBA. They can fake his injury. Like he traveled to Germany, like he's been on a plane for 8 hours to go to Germany to get treatment on it. Like
No, he didn't say they're not injured. He said maybe the injury is not as serious. Like there is an injury, but it's not going to make them miss the playoffs. Maybe they're going to be ready. We'll see. I mean, we only have a few days left. If he actually turns out to be correct, we'll have to apologize to him for the second time. But no one apologized to him the first time anyway, so I guess it will be just me.
You can send him a super chat.
Some takes are just so bad they're good, not gonna lie. They have to be. We have to take these takes seriously, I guess.
I think, and then the last game, the Grizzlies play the Rockets, and they're going to tank their ass off, lose that one, and the Suns are playing the Thunder, and that doesn't really matter for anything because they're both locked.
What if the Rockets surprise everybody in the playoffs, though? Everyone wants to play them, but what if KD just goes nuts and then Amin and Shingun just turn into Terminators and do everything right that they've been doing wrong all year?
I mean, what could happen is that the Lakers somehow fail to beat the. I know the Lakers will beat the Jazz. I don't know why I said that. What could happen is that the Nuggets play the Lakers in the first round. If the Nuggets lose and the Lakers lose, and the Rockets win, but that's not going to happen. I also don't think I might be lying, but nevertheless, do we have anything more we need to discuss today, Amir?
No, but we were thinking of doing 2 episodes a week in the playoffs to have more time to talk about things. I don't know if our schedules will allow that since we already cannot agree on 1 day a week, like fixed time. But we'll see. We'll try. And if we can do that, we can have 1 episode about the All NBA teams, and then also react like all NBA teams and playoff predictions after the season is officially over. If we can't, then we're just gonna be back here and talking about the playoffs, like wrapping up the week, and we'll see what we're gonna do, and
Yes, sir.
hopefully this is the last time I'm not on my new mic. What do you have to say? This like wrapping.
I think that sounds. We'll see how it aligns with my schedule because I also am a little pressed with exams, so we'll see. It's my
it's tough to be a student.
all right. See you, Amir.
All right, peace out, everybody. See you next weekend, and peace out.